The night air bit at my skin as I stood frozen, watching Mrs. Abernathy's trembling hands grip my wrist. "I know what happened to your father," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the howling wind. 23 years of questions, of wondering why he'd abandoned us without a trace, and now, at midnight on the loneliest stretch of road near my childhood home, this woman I'd known only as my mother's quiet neighbor was about to unravel everything I thought I knew about my life. Before I dive deeper into what happened that night and how it completely transformed my understanding of family, trust, and forgiveness, I want to thank you for joining me for another story time. If you're finding yourself already pulled into this journey, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means everything and helps these stories reach others who might need to hear them. I hadn't planned to be driving through my hometown that night. After living in the city for 8 years, I'd made a point of visiting my mom only during daylight hours, avoiding the memories that seemed to lurk in the shadows of our small town after dark. But a delayed flight and a missed connection had me driving the familiar roads well past midnight, my headlights cutting through a thick fog that had settled over the countryside. That's when I spotted her, a hunched figure standing beside a stalled car, hazard lights blinking weakly in the mist. Even before I pulled over, something about her silhouette struck me as familiar. Mrs. Abernathy had lived next door to us for as long as I could remember, a widow who kept to herself and exchanged pleasantries with my mother over their shared garden fence. She'd always been kind to me, offering homemade cookies when I was young and congratulation cards when I graduated, but we'd never had a real conversation. "Daniel," she said, squinting as I approached. "Is that really you?" She looked smaller than I remembered, more fragile. Her car had died completely, battery, she explained, though she'd been waiting for over an hour before I happened to drive by. No one else had stopped. "Let me drive you home," I offered, helping her gather her groceries from the back seat. "We can call a tow truck in the morning." She hesitated, clutching her purse to her chest. "I was actually heading somewhere else," she said. "The old lighthouse point. I go there sometimes when I can't sleep." Something in her voice made me pause. It was nearly 1 in the morning, and the lighthouse was a good 20 minutes away, perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Not somewhere an elderly woman should be visiting alone in the middle of the night. "I'll take you," I heard myself say. I haven't seen the lighthouse in years. The drive was mostly silent. Mrs. Abernathy stared out the window, occasionally glancing at me as if trying to find the right words. I filled the silence with small talk, my job in marketing, my apartment in the city, careful to avoid mentioning my recent divorce or the real reason for my unexpected visit home. When we reached the lighthouse parking area, she asked if I would walk with her to the viewing platform. The night had cleared somewhat, and a full moon cast everything in silver light. The ocean stretched out before us, vast and unknowable. "I used to come here with your father," she said suddenly. I nearly stumbled on the gravel path. My father had left when I was 7, no explanation, no goodbye. Just gone one morning, leaving my mother to raise me alone. She'd never spoken badly of him, but his absence had shaped my entire life. "You knew my father?" I managed to ask. Mrs. Abernathy nodded, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "We all did, in different ways. Your mother knew him as her husband. You knew him as your father. I knew him as..." She paused, as someone caught in an impossible situation. That's when she took my wrist and whispered those words that would change everything. "I know what happened to your father. And it's time you knew too." She told me how my father had discovered financial irregularities at the construction company where he worked as an accountant. How he'd found evidence that his boss, the town's most respected businessman, was laundering money for a dangerous group of people. How he'd gone to the police, only to be warned that his family would be in danger if he pursued it. "He didn't abandon you, Daniel," Mrs. Abernathy said, tears streaming down her face. "He left to protect you and your mother. He made a deal: he would disappear, take a new identity, and never contact you again. In exchange, they would leave you both alone. I felt dizzy, decades of resentment colliding with this new reality. How do you know all this? Because I helped him, she whispered. I worked as a secretary at the police station back then. I was the one who processed his entry into witness protection. I was the last person from this town to see him alive. My legs gave out, and I sank onto a nearby bench. Alive? Is he? No, she said gently, sitting beside me. He passed away 3 months ago. Cancer. Before he died, he asked me to give you something when the time was right. From her purse, she withdrew a sealed envelope, yellowed with age. He wrote this the night before he left. He wasn't allowed to leave it then, it would have violated the terms of his protection. But he kept it all these years, hoping someday you would understand. With trembling hands, I opened the letter. The handwriting was unfamiliar, yet somehow I knew it was his. My son. Asterisk, if you're reading this, I'm no longer in this world, and you're finally learning the truth. Every day away from you and your mother has been its own kind of death. I've lived a half-life, always looking over my shoulder, always wondering who you've become, asterisk. Asterisk, I hope you can forgive me for the choice I made. I've asked myself 1,000 times if there was another way, but I couldn't risk your safety. You were everything to me, you still are, even though I've had to love you from afar, asterisk. Asterisk, your mother doesn't know the real reason I left. The authorities thought it safer that way. Please tell her I never stopped loving her, not for a single moment, asterisk. Asterisk, I've enclosed something that belongs to you, the watch my father gave me when I turned 18. I'd planned to give it to you on your 18th birthday. It's years late, but I hope you'll wear it and remember that time, though it takes much from us, cannot take everything, asterisk. With all my love. Dad. Inside the envelope was a vintage pocket watch, its silver case engraved with my initials. I opened it to find a tiny photograph tucked inside, me as a child, sitting on my father's shoulders, both of us laughing. Mrs. Abernathy placed her hand on my shoulder. He had someone send him updates about you whenever possible. He knew about your college graduation, your wedding. He was so proud of the man you've become. I couldn't speak, tears flowing freely now. All those years of feeling abandoned, of wondering what I'd done wrong, of building walls around my heart to avoid being hurt again, including in my failed marriage, all based on a misunderstanding. Why tell me now? I finally asked. Because he made me promise to wait until it was safe. The people he testified against are all gone now, dead or in prison. And because... She hesitated, because your mother is sick, Daniel. She doesn't know I'm telling you this, but her cancer has returned. She's been trying to find the right time to tell you. The world seemed to tilt beneath me. My mother, the strongest person I knew, facing this battle again, and this time, I was barely present in her life, too busy nursing old wounds to see what was happening right in front of me. She needs you, Mrs. Abernathy said simply. And I think you need her too. That night changed everything. I drove Mrs. Abernathy home and then went straight to my mother's house. I found her awake, sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea, somehow knowing I would come. We talked until sunrise, about my father, about her illness, about the years we'd spent protecting each other from truths we thought would hurt too much to bear. I showed her the letter, the watch, and together we cried for the man we'd both loved and lost in different ways. I moved back home the following week. Not out of obligation, but because I finally understood what my father had been trying to teach me through his sacrifice, that love sometimes means making impossible choices, and family is worth fighting for, no matter the cost. My mother's treatment was difficult, but she's now in remission. During her recovery, we sorted through old photographs, and she shared stories about my father I'd never heard before. For the first time, I felt like I knew him, not as the man who left, but as the man who loved us enough to let us go. As for Mrs. Abernathy, she's become like family. Every Sunday, she joins us for dinner, and sometimes we drive to the lighthouse together, watching the waves and sharing memories. She told me recently that in all her years of keeping my father's secret, she never doubted that someday the truth would find its way home. I wear my father's watch every day now. Not just as a connection to him, but as a reminder that time, while precious, doesn't define us. It's what we do with the time we have that matters, the love we give, the sacrifices we make, the forgiveness we offer. If there's one thing I've learned from that midnight encounter, it's that the stories we tell ourselves about our lives aren't always true. Sometimes, the people we think have hurt us the most are the ones who have loved us beyond measure. And sometimes, healing begins with a whisper in the dark, when we least expect it. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it touched you in any way, please consider subscribing to hear more stories like this one. Remember, the truth has a way of finding us, even on the darkest nights, especially then.